Hey everybody, welcome to the third episode of Foreigners Talk American, the fantastic podcast where I, a lone American, will discuss something interesting about my country's culture with a couple of my best foreign friends. With me again, very diverse group, is from Ireland, Gary.
Well, how are things?
From New Zealand, Jonathan.
What's up, boys and girls?
From South Korea, we got Andrew.
Hi, Millennials.
And we have a very special guest today who's going to have the honor of being the first non-foreigner to be on our podcast. David is here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joseph. Yeah, thank goodness. The only non-foreigner. You've been having way too many foreigners on here.
I thought this was getting a little bit too blue state of a podcast, so I wanted to mix things up a little. So we got a true
No, I'm kidding.
born and raised American. I saw his passport before the show, so I can guarantee you that he's a true American. You guys excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me on here. This is cool. Like a true American, my passport is actually expired. But it's
But why would you want to visit one of these foreign countries anyway, right?
Yeah, no, America's the greatest country in the whole world. There's no need to get any other perspective. So.
And we just lost most of our listeners.
No. Obviously not true. Obviously not.
Okay, so let's get into today's topic. The reason why I had David on our show today is because I think this will fit very well with him. Because today we're going to be talking about millennial. And millennials is this very interesting demographic, which we're all part of. They're part of the age group between the mid-20s and the late 30s. And what makes millennials really interesting is that it's the first generation where a large portion of our population is not living a better life than the previous generation. And some characteristics of millennials include lack of good jobs, inability to buy homes, and a lot of them still live at home with their parents without health insurance and other basic needs like that. David, is this an accurate description of millennials, or am I going too far?
Yeah, actually, when you sent me the description of how you define millennials, I thought that was the profile of me personally.
This is actually a script from David's Tinder profile. This is actually what he has there.
That's what I put on all my social media when it's asked for a bio. Yeah.
But so this is actually more or less describe people in your age group, David.
Yeah, and from a very so first of all, I think it describes a very good surface level idea of kind of problems with the generation of millennials. It addresses like different things, like really not being able to plan in advance, or being able to plan but not having the resources. I've always I grew up not having very much. First of all, like I didn't have very much. My family grew up on like food stamps and welfare. And then I got accepted to University of California, San Diego. I got grants, and then I still kind of didn't know what to do with my money. I spent it on like Waba Grill and like like sushi, and
which is our new sponsor, Waba Grill.
Yeah, and which is fine. Like I was just going out to have fun and hang out with friends. What I realized later was that if I had reserved some of my resources for situations like this, I would kind of be a couple of steps ahead of probably my peers, the next generation. But I just feel like I'm kind of in the middle of the storm right now, just getting by. I don't own a house. I rent 2 rooms out from a retired stoner construction guy. He's really cool. But
would you say your story is pretty typical to your peers and people in your age demo? Where owning a house is just not a possibility. You might like have trouble saving, etc.
Yeah, a lot of my friends are going through the same thing where they've had trouble saving. They've been in and out of jobs, either trying to find a career or jumping from one industry to the next. Like I started like a lot of people working in a coffee shop, then I worked in a restaurant, and then I ended up working in the corporate world, talking to business owners about the revenue, $500,000 a year in revenue for their business. But at the same time, like even though I was doing that for like 3 years every day, I would come back home and not really reflect the life of someone that's working in a corporate finance world. It was crazy. Like I had this total disconnect. And I would talk to my friends too, and they're like, "Wow, that must be a great experience, to work in and I was still just getting paid a wage to get by. It's not like I, was
And
making.
keep in mind, audience, David has a college degree from the finest university in San Diego, which we all attended, the University of California, San Diego.
Absolutely.
So David, so have you did you graduate 3 years ago, and you've been working for 3 years, or you said?
Yeah. So I actually graduated close to 7 years ago now. Actually, 7 in January. I don't even know how I got into university. I can't even count. No, I graduated in 2013, and right after that, I started working. Well, so right after that, I went through a breakup with this girl that I had been with for like 6 years, and I was like,
which is a typical millennial problem. Yeah,
that's a typical millennial problem where it's like top priority that your emotional.
Is she dating someone with a better salary than you right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But this person isn't on Foreigners Talk American, so don't worry about that, David.
Yeah, and she and I were both really bad with money. Her parents, their house foreclosed, which was really sad. And we went through all of that. And then I still didn't know how to deal with my money. She got a little better at, saving, and she financed a car, and she was building her credit. Something still never connected in my head. So I was just still like, partying, going out. And so we broke up because we were just on different pages on like how to plan for your future. She was better at it, and I was getting carried away. So I started working in a inbound phone sales job, selling cybersecurity. And I was like, this is just boring as hell. And then I started doing stand-up comedy. So I had these two lives just, veering. I had this forked level of interest. One was a phone sales job, and then one was making people laugh and really taking people back away from reality, so that I really could identify find my own identity better. So it was weird. So I kept doing like the phone sales job. I ended up getting a DUI because I was just driving. I was going out and partying, driving
This
drunk.
is like the most serious episode we've ever had.
Dude, it was crazy. And because I'm a millennial, I grew up with Mario Kart. So I was doing these like power slides and stuff while I was drunk driving.
He was driving on mushrooms, yeah.
Yeah, I was driving, which is the worst part about being a millennial. No,
I want to get into your job that you took. You took it because of necessity. Like, this is the only place that would hire you. Like there isn't a better job with someone with a college degree when you were looking for jobs in 2013, 2014?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the job market was definitely suffering. I studied communication and media and film. So instead of moving to Los Angeles to pursue that, I tried to stick around San Diego.
Okay.
Also, so it was a little bit of my own choice to not situate myself in the same industry, but at the same time, even looking for jobs in San Diego was it was like almost impossible. So I just found whatever phone sales job that I could get. So
would it be fair to say that your career has been mostly made of jobs that you kind of don't see yourself advancing, like something you're not passionate about or something you don't see yourself doing in 20 years? Is that fair to say the line of jobs that you had since you graduated kind of fit into?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the funniest part about it is like I'll go from a phone sales job and I went to working at a restaurant again for a while, and then I always get into the interview, right? And the manager looks at me and they're like, so, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And my initial thought is just, I don't know, I have no idea. Where do you see me in 5 years? And that's really like what it comes down to is like millennials are so good at, what do you see in me? Not what do I see in myself and how can I put that out there? So actually, I think that's why this whole quarantine is good, because it's allowing everybody to introspectively build on themselves and put back out whatever they're made for, whatever they find their goals are, whatever they're good at. Like it's really allowing people to stare back at themselves and be like, shit, I guess maybe I should actually be a cook or something. I'm cooking a lot now. Yeah, it allows you to explore your passions a little bit more because you have a lot more time to think. Gary, do you think this is first of all, what do you think about David's life so far? And is this a similar situation going on with people your age in Ireland?
I think it's similar. I think it's similar. I think a lot of people would have a very similar story. It's hard to know the full perspective of everyone, but for me, I see it through that kind of graduated with a college degree, and in Ireland in particular, most of us emigrate, so it makes it slightly more of a different story, where we will mostly leave the country and find a job somewhere else. So this is
So
kind of
most people
typical.
emigrate if they have a good degree, or is it everyone emigrates?
Everyone that's willing to emigrate. So there's some people who are more want to stay at home and want to stay in Dublin or want to stay in their hometown. But anyone that kind of has, I wouldn't say aspiration, but like if you're willing to, that's where you get more opportunity by going to London, going to Canada, going somewhere abroad, or Australia is kind of the norm. So most of my engineering class left Ireland straight after university or soon afterwards, and so we all end up living abroad. The people who stayed either living with their parents so that they could afford a deposit for a mortgage, or they're struggling to survive in Dublin with no prospect of ever owning a house. So.
Would you say most of the people you know in Ireland, because you have a STEM major, is from an engineering background?
Yeah, the primary amount of people would be a STEM background.
Okay, so you're not a great example of a typical millennial, because you got a good degree that's going to get you a good job. So that's pretty. So you're pretty well off.
Possibly true, and possibly I've already paid off my student. I may have paid off my student loan already, so I'm maybe not the best example here.
All right, let's get to a good example. Jonathan, how are millennials doing in New Zealand?
The streets get a bit cold sometimes, but no, I'm kidding. First of all, hi guys, and to the non-millennials that might be listening in, I mean, we had one comment on YouTube from a certain Tom. Sounded a bit mature.
I'm telling you, man, that was a bot. Don't listen to him.
I mean, okay, if not for that guy, if there's sort of non-millennials out there, Generation Xers or Boomers out there, this is an episode not to pretty much shit on you guys. Okay, now I'm gonna still give you guys credit where it's due, namely because I think my parents would probably want to listen to this now. They've been asking me about your podcast, Joseph. But
it's our podcast, Jonathan. It's our podcast. You guys must blame.
Yeah. But so yeah, like I mean, you guys have touched on so many things. So I don't want to start, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, every generation has their own challenges, right? So not to say that I do appreciate all the things that our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation has had to go through. Taking from them, especially having to also work hard. Now, sure, I'm not saying that we don't have to. We do, right? But at the same time, when David mentioned the disconnect, I think that really hits hard and it hits home. I think to our situation right now, because for one, we're told to study as hard as you can, go to school, go to uni, and then get a proper degree and get a proper jobs to, avoid pretty much going to those entry-level jobs that, that pretty much obviously pay the least, right? But at the same time, that's probably the jobs that are most abundant now. I don't know if it's the same in you guys' countries, but definitely New Zealand, right? We're told to then, do our best to not settle for those and go for the higher paying jobs, typically the white collar jobs, right? But at the same time, then we had the whole conundrum, I think, that you guys could probably relate to when you first came out of uni, right? To have no experience, therefore can't get a job. And if you don't have a job, you can't get experience. So that was definitely, I think, and it's still what a lot of people face out there in terms of young people trying to get into the workforce, right? And then also with just job specifications getting more and more, particular, and that I guess not being communicated well enough to what's expected out of us, young people trying to get in. So yeah, you really see a lot of young people just struggling actually to I guess set the right foot forward, get a job that suits. And
so would you say it's like a lack of job availability now? Because I think due to technology or various other issues, like there just isn't a need for too many white collar jobs that aren't like STEM or science.
Yeah, so you're right. That's just, you see, you have technology, automation, and all that. We all know that's a reality, and then we also know that
a secretary now can be replaced with like Google Docs, or a calendar app.
No, and that's a legit concern, and then of course with the older generation still, staying longer in the workforce, and most companies wanting to, retrain them instead of maybe entrusting these jobs to the young ones that lack the experience and also probably the right attitude. I'll maybe get into that later. And also the global workforce also kind of making us having to compete with more people, not just from our countries, but also abroad. And there's all factors kind of play to how, we're kind of in a weird situation where it seems like, there's a fewer maybe jobs out there for us, but at the same time, I don't know if that's entirely true. I think it's maybe more of the right types of jobs that we're not, I think, getting access to.
But there's only like so many jobs available that you can be passionate about. Like, for example, David, you're aspiring to be a comedian. How many famous comedians are there?
There's probably only
someone that you would pay $20 or more to see.
Oh, me personally?
Or like the general public. Would you, less or more than like 200 people, right?
Yeah, someone that has like 30,000 in student loan debt and owes a lot on their taxes, I would pay to see like one comedian. But I think normally
I'm gonna say it's not Louis C.K.
no, I wouldn't. I would see him in front of people, but not by myself. Like I wouldn't see him in a private room or a hotel room or anything. No, no, I think typically like there are maybe like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 comedians that people would see that I'd probably go pay to see if they stopped in my hometown or even like in Los Angeles.
Okay, yeah. So the point is like there's let's say less than 200 top billing comedians, but how many aspiring comedians are there, right?
Yeah, there's like I don't know, hundreds of thousands probably.
Mhm.
I don't know.
And that's not even counting all the YouTube guys that are trying to get a name for them outside there, right?
Yeah, and it's always like, you know, and it's always I think especially with our generation, you know, I see this difference in comedians, in starting comedians as well. Like you'll look at like a millennial that's starting out, you know, they'll have a better grasp on how to use technology, but maybe lack the confidence and the fearlessness that it takes just to get out there and put themselves out there.
Because they don't want to be rejected, or they don't want to.
Myself included. Like I'm a suspect in that all the way. Like where I'm like hesitant to like, I don't know if I want to, you know, do this. Whereas like I've met comedians that are like, you know, 40 and 50, even just starting out, and they're like, I don't know how to use, you know, Instagram or Twitter or whatever, but I know exactly what I want to say, and they'll do well out at an open mic or something. And but there's that lack of, I think if both, I don't know, that's the thing, is like ideally if both generations could come together on working, you know, with each other to bring the entire industry up. I think that's what past generations had, like in the times of like Eddie Murphy and, you know, Bill Cosby, you know, before we knew he was raping women or whatever, or suspected for raping.
No, he's in jail. It's pretty much a proven.
Oh yeah, before we
he's
knew he was
convicted.
Yeah, drugging women. So, but there was that connection between two different generations, where they were like, "Come, I'll take you under my wing and show you what I do and what works."
But let's get into the millennial generation. So, like you're saying, the millennial generation is more afraid of failing in front of an audience. In the case of comedian, and it can go into any field. Like you're afraid that you're going to get rejected because you're so used to kind of filtering your life out in, let's say, like social media, where you can choose exactly the moment you want to share to your audience, and you feel vulnerable if you don't have that control. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a silver lining to that too, where I think like if you know, obviously if you live in the fear of rejection, your options are going to be limited with, you know, how much exposure that you get. But also I feel like if you try to live as a millennial, like trying to live in each moment, you know, whether it's moments of happiness, sadness, depression, being glad, being grateful for something. I think the world also, people look at social media and sometimes will look at your negative posts and be like, you know, maybe that's the only thing they've seen from you in a long time. And they're like, well, this guy really doesn't look at life with a good perspective. If they see one negative post from you, it could really change your voice. So I think it's important for everyone to live like a balanced life where they're resolving things mentally at the same time before putting their voice out there. And then there's less fear of rejection, and you're not going to be afraid of people not accepting what you have to say.
Okay, speaking of someone that's never afraid of being rejected, Andrew, how is the millennial generation doing in Korea? Because you're doing pretty well. You had a good education, and then you got a pretty good job. But would you say your story is pretty typical for most people your age in Korea, or like some people just work in jobs that are
actually,
not as great?
Yeah. I have a lot of. Actually, I wanna intervene the David story a lot, and I'm very impressed with David's story, because when you say millennials in Korea, we say millennials are those who are born after 1990.
No, it's people that grew up
that?
in the millennium. So it's probably like if you're born between 84 and 96.
84 and 96, yeah, okay. Because actually, I could find a job.
You found a
much
job pretty
easier
quickly after college, right? But you went to a pretty good
yeah,
college.
much easier than those who than the others. Because I might not be a good example, but still in Korea, even my friend or my friends who are much younger than me find very hard time to getting a job. I don't know why, but is it? I don't think it's the matter of the individual. I think it's the matter of the society itself, because the job market, the compet is really
Competition.
I don't know. Competition is really severe. I
It's
don't know
okay.
how to
We'll
say
teach you
but-
English on the way.
Thank you. But yeah, and in my age, those who my friends who graduate same time with me,
Mhm.
anyway, they find a job at last, like applying for like companies 10, 20, 30, 40s. Okay, finally they got it. Those who are born in like 5 years younger than me, and they find it really hard to getting a job, except unless they're major in the computer science. And I think same for the other countries as well. If your major is like a literature, like a sociology, like even business major, they find it themselves. There are very very few positions open for them. I see a
So
lot
what
of
happens to a
them
Korean
find-
with a literature major or a business major, can't find a job? Does he end up working a retail job or something, or is he stuck? Is he not doing anything?
As you know that in Korea, most of students live with their parents before they get married, so
Mhm.
they can survive. They don't have to pay for land, and they live up for their lives. But it's really severe situation. It's really difficult, and that's one of the most major problem in Korea. And not getting for those young people are supposed to have most passionate in your life, and they have to they know what they want to do, something that makes you excited, right? The most. But
Yeah.
in reality, like David said, that they just got any jobs they can earn money, which they don't like, which they never thought of, and people find the jobs that's totally not related to their majors.
And are these jobs that actually can lead to better lives, or is it just something to get by, to get some money?
The later.
The latter.
I don't know, because actually there's a book called the bestseller 90s Are Coming, which describes the generation, those who were born in 1990s, who are different from me, because I was born in 1980s. We describe it, we separate that generation. They're so much different from the previous generations. And
I thought we were brothers, but I guess not.
Andrew thinks he's a different generation than us because he's 2
Yeah.
years older than me.
Man, seriously? Okay, I'm working, and I've been working in this company for 5 years, and I've seen lots of newbies, those who were born in 1990s. I don't know. I become like you say boomer, right?
I don't think you have to worry about that.
In Korea, we have the similar word, 꼰대.
Okay, go.
I feel like 꼰대. I feel like I'm like a boomer. It's the same meaning as a boomer. Those who are born like before you, and they know they say they know everything. You have to follow everything I say. You're young. You don't know anything. Just listen to me. Those guys are called boomer.
But that's just part of Korean
In Korea.
culture, right? You always respect your elders. You can't even go to a Korean barbecue restaurant and then eat your meal until the elder has the meat first, right?
Nah, that's the
I was
wrong
watching a
stuff.
documentary yesterday, and that's exactly what happened. Anthony Bourdain and David Chang were eating Korean barbecue. But anyway,
Yeah,
I guess what we learned is like Korea is doing like it's very similar. Like this is a similar problem from every part of the world that this younger generation is struggling. David, does that make you feel better about your own life?
Actually, it really does. I was like, oh, thank God other people don't have jobs.
There's a Korean David out there.
There's a Korean David out there. No, I agree with what Andrew's saying, though, that like, I mean, even for myself, there was a time in the last 3 years where I was consistently employed in the business finance space. And I had friends that were like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And I had figured out very late that you really do have to get at least, even if it's just to make money, you have to get into a pattern in the job market of, you know, similar jobs back to back, or else the people that want to hire you are not going to know if you are going to be there for, you know, 3 months, 6 months, even 8 months, kind of too short of a time. So I definitely kind of learned that recently. I wish if I were to do it again, I would have gotten right out of college and started, even if I had worked in a restaurant until I got my first, you know, media related or writing gig or TV related job just as a production assistant. That's what I would have done if I were to do it all over again, is just actually start in the industry that I want to stay in.
Don't you regret not majoring in computer science or engineering, which makes you like getting a job easier?
So I would say that's a very tough question, because like I don't think not everyone has the cognitive skills to study computer science. I think only 10% of jobs is actually a STEM job, and it's not fair to say like why didn't you study a useful major?
You call me stupid, Joseph? No.
That's what I was heavily implying. But I guess the better question is like, if you could take it back, would you go to college? Would you have just started your career at 18?
I thought of that too. Like, would I have just started a career, or would I have just gone to a community college? But I think I still, if I were to do it again, I would still go back to college, but I would try to explore different majors where I could use. I mean, I studied and majored in communication, and then I went into film. But I realized afterwards, like, I could have still studied film, but something where I'm applying, obviously with like technology. And I really felt like I should have done like programming, because I'm a pretty logical thinker too. But just in retrospect, I guess it's always easier to say, I would have been a computer science programmer and merged it with film and created like a media company of my own. But
it's really scary what you're saying right now, because you're basically saying if you can go back in time, I would tell myself not to study something that I'm passionate in and study something that will probably get me a better job, which is a very scary mindset to
exactly.
for people in our generation.
And that's why I say that. Like, I've thought about that before, but I don't think it's how people should live, because if I hadn't done communication and hadn't taken those 2 acting classes, which I did wonderfully in, and I did my own radio show, which is actually one of the other ways that we started hanging out, as I went to your radio show. Like, if I hadn't done all of those things, you know, side by side, I don't think I would have such a passion and confidence when I do go out and, you know, used to do open mics or whatever live, but I wouldn't have that confidence of voice to be able to tell my story now, I don't think. So I think whatever resources we have now, we should try to, you know, do our best with, you know, making the best out of whatever situation we have.
Now, I want to bring this to Gary, because I think you have probably the best education out of all of us, or the most useful major. Like, what do you think about this mindset of following something that you know will be more stable, or following something that you're passionate in?
So I went into engineering just at the end of probably the last recession. And so a lot of people had this mindset that this was the solution, that they would be in these more stable STEM jobs. But 1/3 of my engineering class dropped out within those first 4 years. And so many people started and spent all this money to start in university and dropped out and had to start off again, because our system doesn't allow the freedom possibly of the American system. But it was dropped out of your course, you're out, and then they lost a year. So there was a lot of people who had this mindset, who weren't really set up or ready or wanted or had the passion for engineering. And when they started, they ended up dropping off. So it's not an easy solution to everything. And I don't know, it's not, I don't think it's the easiest answer is to go back and do something that maybe you're not passionate about. It was always my interest, and it was always and that drove me through it. And especially when you're like in the deepness of it all. And when I went to study in the US, it was quite challenging.
And you liked the engineering since the beginning? Beginning?
Yeah. So I always had this kind of mindset and played with Lego all my childhood and built things, and I always had a passion for railways. So
I think that's something that's incredibly an advantage if you're passionate about something that can lead to financial stability. Like, you're probably interested in reading theorems and math stuff that can help you in your career, where I'm like interested in like reading fantasy football stats, which doesn't help anyone. So I'm always like jealous of people.
Statistics do help. Statistics help, and data analytics is the future. But
See, but
You want
I
to give me
agree
some
with that.
stats advice next year for fantasy football?
Like, like I would see. I can't even follow fantasy football. I'm like fantasy. I think people are gonna say like Fantasy Island, and we're gonna talk about love or something. Like I always grew up so like thinking about so much. I grew up thinking more about storyline than like facts and data. And that was that. So I would be playing with Legos too, and then my Lego characters would like start making out, and I'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna go on a date," and like forget what this guy built. Like it always turned into a storyline for me, and that's. I think it's more important to be immersed in your passion than try to force yourself down.
And creativity is the one thing you cannot automate. Like that's the truth, and
That's
having
true, yeah.
and having that kind of insight is probably the most valuable skill in the future.
You never saw
so
that South Park with Funny Bot?
True. It kind of worked. But it's to me, that's probably like the jobs that are being automated, the jobs people are being replaced are not. Does anyone have a passion for those jobs as much as like it's creativity, it's following your hobbies, it's all these things is probably better. And by automating all these things, we have allowed people to do more of that sort of thing.
Man, the main things, many good points there. I wanted to just sort of, jump on it actually. But off of the last thing that Gary said, it's all right. You said that, creativity can't be replaced, can't automate creativity, right? That's so true. And I think that also reflects another misconception of how, yes, millennials were supposed to come in there and, I guess, carry on that creativity, if not actually be more creative and, create more of a market for those kind of creative jobs. But then, so that's what, people are telling us as well from the past generations, right? But at the same time, are we actually being prepared for those? Because on one hand we're saying yes, we have to be creative, we have to develop our innovative spirit. But on the other hand we're saying no, you actually have to do these certain jobs to fill the certain job market that we have now. Since the neoliberal policies that have been in place, the last few decades, right? We've been told more and more so, right? Yeah, you do these jobs, that'll guarantee you do these degrees, study them, that'll guarantee you a good job. But reality says no, not really, actually, isn't it? And so then I want to go back to what David was saying, the question that you were asking him about, would you go back in time and, not actually go to uni at all? Just go out there and figure out your life without having to go to school. Good question. I guess people ask it more and more now, right, in this generation. But then I think that we can't deny the fact that education is still, I think, the best predictor of salary levels, right? So if you're educated at tertiary level, you're more likely to get a better job out there. So I think you should still be getting to school and not say that it's even sort of easy now. It's getting more and more harder, like difficult. It's getting more expensive, right? But then at the same time, I think it's also our bad to kind of just assume that with a degree we'll probably be all right getting out there and get a job easily. No, so again, the whole misconception of I guess what's expected of us and from the employers, I guess, point of view and what we I guess should be doing in terms of juggling our passion and I guess our skills, kind of having that awareness earlier, the better, right? So kind of like what David was doing there before. If you could see this on screen, I like that whole kind of mix of getting both sides on the table, just to understand what's being expected.
I mean, universities try to do that with electives right now, but that's not really doing much.
Yeah, but yeah, sorry, I just wanted to.
I have a short funny story talking about it not doing much. Like I took this elective in college. Okay, so I recently applied to this job. One of the requirements, it was working as in a sales job for like a parts supplier for hospitals. It's just this job that I applied to recently. One of the requirements that they had was that you have to have a 3.0 and above. And of course, like I've been through a lot of interviews, so I'm like, yeah, I had a 3.0. I had above a 3.0, and I wasn't really sure if that was true. And of course, they called my bluff on it. And I looked at my I looked at my unofficial transcript, and I was like, shit, I had a 2.792. And then I realized, like, why are GPAs, as a side note, why are GPAs the only thing that they don't round up? Like if you're gonna be paid like $4.95. So I looked at my transcript. I had a 2.7, and I was like, I have to tell them that I don't have a 3.0. But not only that, I took this elective in college that it was environmental biology and like taking care of the environment. And in like my last 2 years, I've overcome the problem of littering out the window of my car. And I'm proud to say that I no longer litter out the window of I was a shit person. Like I was becoming but when looking at the environment class, I got an F in it, and I realized that
Because the professor saw your car?
Yeah, they changed my grades. No, like I guess, like in retrospect, I was probably taking in the information and I never did anything with it. But having gone to university, I can look back and really hold myself to a better standard now. Like I should know, I should know these things already about taking care of the environment, about applying myself, about being resourceful, about engaging different cultures. Like I should be applying these things more so that I can really represent the schooling that I've done.
So would you say it's worth the debt that you accrued during university?
No, not at all.
That's a very American concept too. Like these guys on the call right now, they don't have to deal with this. I think
Hey,
the
actually, what?
universities.
We have our debt too. It's just like that much, like an eighth, I think, of your amount. So.
It's the
Well.
cost of like a pool table or something, right?
No, but no. Maybe like the one at your apartment back in the day, the foosball table, probably that one.
That was a $30, Craigslist purchase.
But at least
Yeah,
we can see our way out of our debt, which is probably the main difference. Whereas
Yeah,
I don't.
that's a big advantage too.
Yeah, but considering the price of the university, getting a university degree in America, is really expensive, right? So you cannot
It
carry
depends on
on
the
unless
university, but if you want to go to a place with a good name that will look good on your resume, then yes, it will cost quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I was very surprised to hear from you and the other friends when I was at the UCSD that the price of the cost is like, I don't know, like for foreigners, I heard it is like a 20K, right? $20,000.
Oh, there's way more than that.
Semester
Because so UC system is cheaper if you live in
per
the state,
year,
but if
isn't
you-
it? Yeah.
For foreigners, I would say it's closer to, and I don't know the current statistics now, but it's probably over 50K a year.
Yeah, oh, that's way much like way much than the price of the university in Korea and tuition. But I don't know. You paid a lot? I mean, you and your friends in America paid a lot usually to create a university, and I heard that most of students have like loans like 40K or 50K grand, right?
Mhm.
And that
It depends on the person, and if you go into grad school, you get your PhD is even worse. And what makes it really tough is if you major and get a PhD, you study for 7 years or something, and it's not a great major for a job. Like if it's let's say communication, for example, if you study that, you can only really become a communication professor and possibly pay your loans off that way.
Yeah, then what's the point of paying that much fee in the university? If you only find a job in the university, and if you can't find a job, then what's the point of getting?
So that's
university
what's
degree?
wrong with our generation. Like that's what our generation was tricked into. That getting a college degree will automatically give you a good life. If you have let's say UCLA, Berkeley on your resume, you're going to be fine. You're going to find a good job. But that's just not true anymore. And that's probably the real cause of all these millennial issues is that we think that there's a path to a good life that was traditionally true for many years. Let's say it was true for like 40 years since the college system has been in place, or the modern college system. But that's just not really true anymore because there's so many jobs that are either an older person has and will not quit, so you can't open up that job anymore for a young person, or there isn't enough jobs opening up for someone without a technical skill set. So this is what causes a lot of these millennial issues.
And the thing is, just to go on that, once we get a job, right, on what was mentioned before as well, David was saying maybe it would be great to stay in the job and actually progress through, right? Again, another misconception is that my parents, saying that, oh, these kids, what do they know? Of course, they've never been through actual tough lives before. And then once they get a job, guess what? In 1 or 2 years, they're off, They don't have to fucking keep to a job. And so I actually did some homework about this. Like, what is this actually? And so, it's kind of reflects this, again, another misconception, right? On how we, obviously are seen as not, being able to commit, right? Not being able to sort of, fight to deserve the sort of progression pathways, right? But I think at the same time, apparently what boomers expect is to have us, be motivated enough first to kind of like, keep fighting, keep working hard at your job before these opportunities are then presented to us. Whereas what millennials apparently would like to see first is it's the goal at the end, right? Do I get to progress like after these 1, 2, 3 years? If not, like why do I why should I be as loyal and stick to this job that I have now? So that I think also says a lot, right, about the our generation of kids that eventually get into the workforce. And so that's also, I think, a big debate, isn't it? Then why should we then trust millennials? Find our older ones,
it kind of goes
that
into
probably
like
more loyal.
what your goal is in life. And I think, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of the boomers' goal is just to like make enough money, have a house, have a family.
Because they had to be pragmatic, of course.
And you work any job to get to that goal. Like your goal in life isn't to have a passionate or great job or a job that you're passionate about. It's about those other things. But would you say more or less that millennials are trying to have a different end goal in their life and it's more of a happiness thing?
I think it's circumstantial because right now, I mean, sorry, you guys can definitely answer this after, but like we live in a time right now, yes, where most of it anyways, I'm going to say, everyone of our age, I guess people from our sort of socioeconomic status background, we don't have to worry about, I guess, as much anyways, although, I don't know, putting food on the table as much or like, having a roof over our heads as much as I guess our parents back in the day had to, because of the burdens that they had maybe also had to kind of carry from their family situations. So yes, we're generally living healthier and more comfortable lives. And I guess that again plays into the whole misconception of how like, we can't take rejection before you were saying, David. We can't take the sort of the toughness of of what they then had to experience back in the day, But that's not quite true. I would say,
Definitely, I think that brings us like that brings me back to what I was thinking before about I've actually been thinking lately that this quarantine is really good for our generation because we haven't had that big bad thing that that past generations had yet. We hadn't had that where like past generations have been like, you didn't go through I don't know,
the Vietnam War.
When the Vietnam War was going on, the Great Depression for like the older generations. Like they always had those claims of hardship that they could refer to, and I think that was like the huge motivator for them. I just got to put food on the table. I just got to get working, get saving, and then eventually just have enough money to support my family. I think that's what's being put on us now. Like just naturally, I think our generation is learning like, okay, yeah, bad shit can happen at any time. Like I have to have something stable. Cause I'm applying at Smart and Final like Monday. I've never worked in a grocery store, but we'll see what happens. Like
that's a tough place to work right now, man. That's you're an
sure,
essential
right?
worker.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to like support myself at this point. Whereas before I was just like, hey, it's all just about the story that I want to tell, and I'll get another job in phone sales and something. Like I was finding myself in all of these very leisurely comfort situations, but now I'm just kind of I'm still very encouraged to tell the story, and I'm still I still want to narrate what's going on, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, there's no time to waste. Like I gotta save up money and like and just get something.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So that doesn't reflect the struggle between pragmatism and I guess passion, like you say, right? Again, also I think adding the fact that I think sums up the situation where the job market's changing faster than ever, but at the same time we're still being told that we should probably prioritize stability, right? Get a proper job that'll actually see you be able to live and hopefully also grow when as millennials really see that I think clearly enough. And therefore, like what you guys said before, changing careers many more times now than our parents ever did, because we have to.
So even with all these problems, Jonathan, would you trade your life for a boomer life? Like, would you rather have been born 30 years ago? No, right?
Hell no.
Because we have so many great things.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
is that the general sentiment for everyone in this call? Like, even though like millennials are dealing with all these issues, like we're living in a time that's super advanced and we're still relatively young.
Yeah, And I think you're right about that. So of course, I think with the vulnerability and instability of I guess our prospects, that takes center stage. That should rightly be, I think, center stage, right? But you're right about how, man, we're living longer and we're living healthy. We have many more prospects and opportunities now. With, fewer sort of worries when it comes to actually having just to survive. So to quote Hassan Minaj, this comedian that I think you all are familiar with, right? He said, my parents had to survive, and now I've got to live. I want to live, I think, and
Yeah.
kind of sums up the goal and yet also the struggle. But but no, wouldn't trade it for a thing. Obviously, no. Like my parents call us a strawberry generation.
Strawberry generation? Did you say?
Yeah,
I don't
does it
understand
sum
that.
up,
What's
the
that
strawberry
mean?
generation. So if you imagine the strawberry, I don't know. That's kind of my dad's I think definition of how everything's kind of I guess cherries and colors and it's all sort of, I guess it's like a backhanded sort of envy as well, where it's all seemingly easier, but at the same time not really. But then at the same time again, like we have it better what we can I think aspire to. Whereas back then, I think the script was probably more written already for them.
So let's get into our final questions for today's show. What do you think would help millennials out the most? What solution would you implement
Solution for what? Like
to help millennial
what kind
generation?
of problem? Getting a job? Help them getting a job.
How to
So
find, how to
I think
find
the
toilet
best
paper.
solution would just straight up be universal basic income, where everyone gets a salary provided by the government or like a basic assistance, so you can potentially pursue your interests while having the ability of not being homeless or not necessarily having to live at home with your parents.
That takes trust.
But you
I
guys
guess,
can
from the
disagree
government.
on me over that.
No, I definitely that's I think the most forward-thinking one of them anyways solutions. But man, it takes trust from the government how to know that we can all manage our money, right? So
I'm definitely for that. Yeah, I think you should have to go through an interview first, definitely. But
An interview.
I think I'm really good at interviews because I've been in between jobs for the last 10 years. So I think I'd ace the interview, and then I'd be able to pursue my dreams.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you'd probably be the best guy for that with all those interview experience. But honestly, accountability I think is what's needed with that as well. I salute that sort of initiative, right? I would love that for that, but I also get that I get the skepticism, I guess that's the word, yeah. And the fact that to add some sort of accountability and making sure that money actually is used for the set purposes, right? I think would be necessary. People assume that would, but it's not a clear cut, right? I guess.
So I would say like people that are like like wanted to study something that they're passionate in, but decided not to. Let's say they study engineering because they were somewhat good at it, but they didn't really want to pursue a career in it. They can have stability. And for those that couldn't afford college in the first place, maybe this helps them, pursue something. But do you have something to say, Andrew?
Well, I think European have a better solution because of the welfare system in Europe is much better than the other countries, isn't it, Gary?
Well, yeah, there's definitely income support in a way that I'm discovering doesn't exist in North America, but it's definitely a difference. I'm skeptical of universal basic income because I believe money is ultimately a motivator, and I look at this quarantine and how lack of motivation I have, even though I have more free time than I've ever had, and I just find it hard to know how that line would go. So I'm always skeptical of universal basic income because I feel like income does motivate me and the ability, but then so do other things. I did quit my permanent job to travel halfway across the world. So that was for a lifestyle choice and that was a privilege that I had. So it's hard to know. I don't believe it solves the problem. It solves some problems, but it doesn't really solve this kind of uncertainty of what people want to do. And ability to do that.
Do you have a good solution for to help people in our generation that are kind of struggling in this situation?
It's hard because, as you said, I don't fully have the same challenges. But for me, it's accommodation. It's strange being able to own your own house or at least a stability. Right now, the one thing I'm most sensitive to right now is the fact that I'm paying ridiculous amount of rent, and as my income decreases, I'm very aware of that. That's not secure. And so it's around making life more affordable and balancing that again, because I pay about 50% of my income on my rent, and that's where I find my generation struggles the most. So I think more of the controls of the balance of the cost of living that we can save again, whereas it seems to have gone to a stage where living now costs almost equal to your wage, whereas people before that didn't seem to have that same challenge. So I think it's more that balance than necessarily a basic income, because some people we need people to do every job, and I don't think if you can choose everything or whatever your passion is, then we have no one doing some jobs that aren't necessarily as glamorous.
Well, I still think people will still want to work if they want to get extra money. They just get the $1,000 so they don't have to be homeless in that scenario.
Yeah, I think that's the story what I heard from Peter from from Denmark. I think the Northern Europe model might be a solution for our generation, because Peter was studying for his doctor's degree, and I remember I asked him, "Hey, if you're studying for doctor's degree, then who is gonna pay for your groceries or rent or something?" And he said the government pays him for studying. I said, "What?" Like. It was like 2012, and he said his monthly salary for a doctor's degree was like $5,000.
5,000 Danish dollars or 5,000 American dollars?
Yeah,
Who cares? Where does he live?
US
I'm gonna go live there.
Denmark.
Yeah, but he said he's paying for his tax was like a 50%, but he said his tax will be used for his life, for his society, and for millennials. And I was really shocked. That's the thing. I was really shocked. And if you're studying in the States as well, if you're pursuing your goal, okay, I wanna study more deep in the communication, like deep. The comedy is the thing that makes me passionate, most passionate about. And then you have to care for your money, right? How to support your life, and you need some additional job. But in Northern Europe, I think, I don't know how, but by paying tax for 50%, they said they can help those young generations to motivate themselves and look for their job. Yeah.
But are they only paying PhD students, or are they paying struggling comedians in Denmark? Because
I don't know.
If they are. Because it kind of makes sense to pay the PhD students, because it makes your country smarter. You got more educated people, but I don't think. David, go perform some stand-up in Denmark and tell us what happens.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I have this $5,000 salary now.
Yeah, I'm never coming back if I do that.
David, do you have a solution to how to help out millennials?
I think any amount of government funding monthly, whether it's $200 or $1,000, I think it would definitely help boost the economy so that people have more stability and they can feel more comfortable pursuing what they want. But I think ultimately, there should be more government programs that teach, resourcefulness, or teach how to be accountable, how to be reliable, that teach, cultures really how to become more viable, not only in the workforce, but just as a human being. I think there are like certain things like integrity that get lost with, poverty-stricken communities too, that people, resort to theft and violence, whereas it's like, you don't need to turn to any of those things if you're actually getting the right tools that you need to be, valuable in the workforce, I guess. So I think there should be more workshops created by the government, more programs.
Should there be a high school class that you have to pass that's like, this is what's going to happen to you when you grow up?
Yeah, I really think there should be like a high school class that says like,
hey, college is not always the answer, and this is how much you're expected to pay back if you go to Berkeley or whatever.
Yeah, the class should have a unit test at the end of the course that says you have $3,000 of credit card debt and $10,000 of university debt, and you're working in an all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue restaurant. What do you do? And you have to map out your plan for escaping debt.
It's a depressing. Yeah,
depressing.
It'll be. But we have.
That's the millennial generation, guys.
we have to put all the depression on the high schoolers though, and not on the 30-year-olds. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
No,
on the bright side, we probably are living a better life than the next generation. So that's something.
What you just said though reflects what's up though. You see, like on the bright side, we're anyway. Yeah, I was gonna say that. Man, it just resonates because the fact that we're saying, okay, I think we'll be better off in the next generation. Haha, that's you guys' business to deal with, right? That's pretty much what these old cunts now are saying about us. Like, they'll manage. That's all good, They don't have to fucking deal with war and hunger and all that. So I think it's the main thing there, where the older guys who are still, I mean, the most of the employers out there are still, from the previous generation, right? So back, guess what? I think they already have to realize that, hey, they have a, if not B-roll to play in this in terms of going off what Gary said, to understand what motivates our generation, what we actually, what we see, what we yearn to achieve, what actually attracts us, right? And how we can then just bring the best out of our millennial generation. And on the flip side of school, what David said, as kids ourselves, I think oftentimes we kind of just told to, just study these things, go to uni, you'll be sorted, right? But no, I think it's about, getting them to be conscious and aware as early as possible on their skills, their passions, and I guess the demands in the market out there. Obviously always changing, but it's kind of getting them to think about those things as early as possible, and that'll definitely help, I believe. To kind of
it wasn't a good joke to say, hey, we're living better than the next generation, because that's what causes all these issues, that the next generation doesn't care about the previous generation or whatever, and that's
it's funny between us. But
yeah. No, you really made me think about that, because if we don't think about how to solve this problem for the next generation, then it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I think the best way to solve the problem is everyone needs to get off of TikTok. It's such a waste of time. I use it all the time, and I'm not making any money. That's all we need to do.
At our expense. At our intelligence expense, it is making them money, but you're right. I don't understand.
It's making somebody money.
Yeah, that's good. That's good chance. Actually, they're making a job. In Korea, in elementary school students, those are like 10. The number one, the dream job they want to have is a YouTuber, YouTube streamer. You say?
YouTube, yeah.
Seriously.
YouTube.
Yeah, the second is teacher. Yeah, the first is YouTuber.
So next time, I hope we can get Peter and to talk about how his society's done really well in terms of inheriting that generational responsibility.
I guarantee you, he's not paying any guy on the street $5,000 just to be telling jokes.
Hey, happy with the 40% taxes, so hey,
All right. On that note, we're gonna end the show. But David, I'll give you the last word. Anything you want to promote or anything?
Oh, sure. I wanted to actually I wanted to add on to what Jonathan was saying earlier about, like, we should be really grateful to the past generations for everything that they did teach us. I mean, we are at a point now where we have to utilize a lot of stuff that we know, and we have to keep finding out more information. Don't be ignorant. I guess I'll promote my Instagram. You can find me at Little Davy Fritos. No, I don't know. I just think it's extremely important just to stay positive through this time and be grateful. Be entirely grateful for everything that you actually have, and back to what you were saying, Andrew. If kids do want to go out and be YouTube stars, it's important that they put out something positive, something good for the there's a real time right now to shine if you have something good to say and bring to the table. So I think it's just important to keep staying positive and keep staying grateful to for everyone around us too.
So David wants to promote positivity, and if you're the hiring manager at Smart and Final, and you're listening to this, give him a chance.
Yeah, and also you can donate to my homelessness prevention program at Venmo, David-Freitas. That's Freitas. I'm preventing homelessness for my entire household, which is me, in the next couple months.
Well, we appreciate you being on, David.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, Joseph, I appreciate it. Yeah, good hanging with all of you guys.
Thanks again, David. So for Gary, Jonathan, Andrew, and David, my name is Joseph, and thanks for listening to Foreigners Talk American.